Okay, I'm going to warn you right now. This is going to be a little bit longer of a video. So, I would post a shorter video, but I'm going to try to do a lot in this video because I'm basically going to design the entire rear of my bike. So, I'll go as quickly as I can. Feel free to ask questions and lecture if you have no idea what's going on. So, this is our bike frame. Now, the idea is just kind of to show. I'm going to go ahead and start by making an assembly. Okay, so I'll click New, Assembly, okay. Now, what I'm going to be doing here is I'm just going to kind of show generally what I want to do with my SolidWorks drawing. Okay. Now the first thing you do when you start an assembly is you get nothing. Almost everything is grayed out. It's because the first thing that it asks you to do is to begin the assembly, you have to start with a main part. Now this is going to be a part that doesn't move. It's going to be a part that is assumed to be rigid, that everything is mounted to, which is why a frame is a good starting part. I'll go ahead and drop this in. Click on the Z-axis, pan my view over by holding down Control and the center mouse wheel, and this is ultimately what my everything is going to look like. Now I'm going to go ahead and insert a component. Now if I go down here in this list, it says insert components and it only gives me mainframe. Well, that's because I have mainframe open. I'll have to go browse and go to my folder where I saved everything. Notice everything's in Project 2. You should have all of your SolidWorks parts that go to a single SolidWorks file in the same folder. I don't care if that means you have to copy multiple parts into the same folder. I don't care what that means. You should always keep one folder that has all of your SolidWorks parts. If you don't do that, everything starts to break. Now you can have individual subfolders inside of your main folder that may have, like, this has the assembly to this, and this has the assembly to this, and that's fine because SolidWorks can identify those. But when SolidWorks has to go out and look in your computer in random places, it doesn't know how to do that. When it comes to assemblies, you need to keep all of your parts in your assemblies right next to your assembly file, whether that be in the same folder or in subfolders inside the same folder. So I'm going to be putting my assembly file here. I don't have a ton of parts for this whole project, so I'm just going to put it all in one folder, but I'm going to go ahead and open up wheel. I'll also bring it in. I'm going to have my wheel be about right here. About right here. Okay. It's a little bit bigger of a wheel than normal. 32-inch wheel is a giant bike wheel. Tried to ride on a 28-inch bike wheel once. It was impossible. So mine's going to have a little bit more of a streamlined lowrider look. It's going to be super long, but hopefully that equates with comfort. So here's my design. I'm going to have one wheel here. I'm going to insert another component. You're going to have to go back and find that wheel again. Open. This one's going to go out front. So I'm going to have the handlebars that come up like this. I'm going to have this rear suspension. And what I'm going to be modeling today is this rear suspension piece. And I'll show you what I'm doing with it. But I guess we'll get into that design now. So this is as far as I can really go because I haven't created any kind of connection between here and here, here and here. I'm going to have to do all of that. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to create the connection piece that's going to go in here. And then I'm going to create a connection piece that goes from here to here. I'm going to create a connection between here and here. That's probably going to mean I'm going to have to modify this frame, drill a hole, or mount a bracket or something on the back side. I'll probably mount a bracket. And then from that, I will mount a spring that goes down to my control arm from the seat so that the seat is always supported by the rear wheel. And that's going to be my design. So let's make that happen. Okay, so I'll go ahead and save this, and then I'm gonna, oh, I guess I should probably bike us. Okay, now I've got this assembly file that's in there. It's working just fine. What I'm gonna do for my other assembly file, oh man, I hate this because I always forget how to make it go shorter. Don't need SolidWorks again. There it is. I wish I knew how to make it go like all the way because I don't like it. I like having more space. It is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and X out of this assembly. I'm also going to go ahead and X out of this assembly. Just because you got to minimize how much you have open, because SolidWorks is a pain in the butt. Go ahead and draw my part. Now, in order for me to draw my part, I'm going to have to go look at my wheel, because I'm going to start with that connection, like I said. I'm going to start with my connection, and I'm going to build from there. So I'm going to quickly open up my wheel. You'll notice I have two windows now open in SolidWorks. I will usually use that to parse through it. I need to know how wide this is, because I don't want to have my part be shorter than that. I also don't want it to be longer than that. So what I can do is I can click on my Evaluate tab, and I can go to Measure, and I can measure like this component right here. It's a diameter of 1.5 inches. It gives me an area. It's not quite what I'm looking for. I need a distance. So what I might do here is I'll go back into that part, which that part right here is Boss Extrude 2. Nope. Yes, it is. And I will just, whoa, no. I'm gonna get out of measure. I'm just going to go in and edit the feature and look at how far I made it. So I made it a 4-inch hub. Okay. Good. That means I will now go back into my other drawing part, and I'm going to have to make sure that my hub is at least 4 inches for that connector piece. Oh, and I need to also know what is the size of that inner diameter. So I'll go in here. SolidWorks is going to freak out. I got a 1-inch inner diameter. Okay, good. Thank you, SolidWorks, for protecting me from myself. Thank you. I'll go ahead and sketch. Here I'm going to sketch on the front plane again. I'll draw a circle. And this, I'm just making the connector piece. Okay, that's all I'm doing. I'll exit the sketch. I'm going to Boss Extrude this. And because I've been doing everything mid-plane, I'm going to keep it that way, because that allows me to make sure, thank you SolidWorks, that my mid-plane dimension is sufficient. Oh, I didn't dimension that, did I? Oops. Got a little excited. I gotta make sure that this is 1 inch. Thank you SolidWorks. Oh, so close. Almost exact. I'm like a boss at SolidWorks. So there's my pin. Okay, you'll notice it's 6. It is 6 inches wide, and that's just because I want to have a little bit of an inch extra space on the outsides. Now, what I might even do beyond that is make this 7 inches wide, and then create little collars that clip on the outside so that it holds the connector in place. I suppose that wouldn't be a bad idea, because then this is just a through pin that goes through. You oil that joint. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'm actually going to go back in and edit that and make it just a little bit longer. Oh no, I don't want to edit the sketch. I'll make it 7. Okay, and then the idea is I'll put collars on the outside of there to hold it on. Probably not going to model the collars, but I've got space for the collars at least. And then I'm just going to save this. And then, like I told you earlier, you need to make sure that everything is in the same folder. I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder in here. And I'm going to have this called Rear Assemb. It stands for Rear Assembly. Inside of this, I'll have the axle, which that's this component here. Gonna go ahead and close the axle. Open a new part. Nope. File new part. Trying to go too quickly. And in this new part, it's going to be a bar that goes from the axle all the way to the bike. So here I'm going to do a sketch. And this sketch is going to be on sketch. I want it to be on the right plane. Okay. You'll notice it actually went straight to it. Otherwise, you could hit your normal 2 and it'll go straight to your feature. So now I'm looking at the left side. Now I'm looking at the right side. Okay, for my bar, it's just going to be a circle. It's going to be a straight line circle. Nothing's fancy. Well, for the most part. I'm actually going to make this a hollow tube. Whereas the axle, I want them to have a solid axle. Here, my tube connections, I've been making them hollow just because in my world it's better practice. Make this 0.25 inches, and then I will make this be 1 inch. Okay, it has this exact same dimensions as that inner hub of the bicycle, but that doesn't matter. You notice the whole thing's black, it's fully defined. So I will go ahead and go into extruder boss base here. And here, instead of doing a mid-plane one, which happens every time I draw on the front plane, I'm just going to do an extruded boss. It needs to be at least 16 inches just to go from the center hub to the outside of the wheel. Now I want it to extend about well, I'm going to have it stop at the center hub axle, and I'm going to create a connection piece there. I'll show you what I mean. And I'm going to have a connection piece on the other side. But I want mine to be at least 16 inches because otherwise my bike frame is going to touch my tire. Now I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. I'm probably going to go out to be about, let's see, the maximum distance that I would want between my bike tire and my frame would probably be about 8 inches. So I'll go ahead and make this 24 inches and I'll say yes. Okay, so this is the tube. This is part of the assembly that's going to be used to join my back tire to my bicycle. Now what I'm going to do here is I have to create a connection here that's going to slide onto that axle we just made. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that first. I will first of all sketch. Now I don't want to draw on this plane. I actually have to create a circle that goes in this plane. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sketch, but my sketch is going to be on the front plane. Okay, so this time it didn't zoom in for me, so I'll go ahead and hit right view. It takes me to the front plane. On this end, I want to create the connection to that axle. So the axle is 1 inch thick here, so I'm going to create 2 circles. You'll notice that I have this handy dandy circle line. It's because that's parallel to the origin, which is what I want. And I will create 2 different lines. Oh, nope, 2 different circles. Both of them at the same point. And let's see, this inner diameter, I need this to be we'll make this be 1.05 inches. Okay, just because it needs to be a little bit larger than that axle piece so it slides on, which will give it a nice, yeah, it'll give it a nice round coverage, so if the axle spins inside of it, it's okay. Has to deal with tolerancing. But then this outer piece here, I actually want it to be a little bit bulky. Escape. No, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this dimension. I want to dimension the wall thickness there. I want this to be a 1/2 inch thick. 0.5. Okay. Now you notice it's a little bit thicker than the other one, and this is also not defined. I'm going to use a dimension to define the distance between these 2 points. I only want this to be about 1 inch. But if I make it 1 inch, then you'll notice it intersects there. Well, it intersects there, but it doesn't actually end up going into the tube. If it is a problem intersecting, I could make this a little bit bigger as needed, but it's whatever. So I am now going to go ahead and create this circle. Oh wait, no. I'm actually going to delete this. I'm going to go ahead and change a few things real quick, just to try to model this in a little bit better practice. Distance from the origin to that point, we'll say is 25 inches. Okay, good. 25 inches, center to center, on hole between the two. Okay, and then I will add a relation between the center of that circle and the origin, and these will be horizontal. I say yes. If I scoot back over, you'll notice my sketch is fully defined. I hit exit sketch. Now, I'm actually going to move this sketch before the boss extrude. And I couldn't dimension to the boss extrude if I was going to do that. Because the issue is I'm not going to make this boss extrusion be what it originally was. I'm actually going to have it extend between 2 circles. So I will go ahead, go over here. I don't want to look at the top. I don't want to look at the top, I want to look at the front. There we go. Okay. And so I have this. I'm going to go ahead, since I did draw that on the front plane, I'm going to extrude this. I'm going to do a mid-plane extrusion, and I'm going to make it be about 1 inch, because I like a good solid connection. So mid-plane, 1 inch, yes, and there's what it looks like. Okay, so go back into this view. Now I guess I'll just mirror this across. It's whatever, and I'll have to draw a connection between them. So I'm gonna have the same style of connection on the other side, just because, you know what, makes it easier. So we'll go into the features tab up here. We'll do a mirror. Oh, I need to create a plane right there. Since this is 24 inches long, that means that plane is going to be 12 inches offset. So I'll go in, create a plane. First reference is going to be, sure, that right there. And then I will have it go, I can automatically just create a plane from that, but I don't want it to be, so I'll go select a face. I accidentally selected an edge. An edge can fully define a plane, but you can't do an offset from an edge. So I will have this be 12 inches, and I will change the direction. Flip offset, which puts the plane right in the middle of this tube. So if I do that, there we go. There's my plane that's right in the middle of there. And then I'll go ahead and I will mirror this feature across plane 1. It shows up over there. I hit yes. I now have both features. Okay, so that's nice. But I really don't like how I connected these two together. In a perfect world, you would have some kind of weld that would just go around here or something to connect to. And we can model that using it's a lofted boss base. So we have to just create a nice surface to transition to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to make this be invisible. Whoa, that didn't work. Make it visible again. Oh. Make this be invisible. Oh. It hides everything. Oh well. It is what it is. Let me go ahead and scroll back a little bit. By grabbing this line, what you can do is you can only be visible up to a certain level. So here, if I grab this line and I drag it back here, my mirror is now gone. If I drag it back one more, I'm now looking at the system as if the plane hadn't been drawn yet. Go back one more, I'm looking at the system as if that round piece had not been added. Okay, so this will just give me an interesting opportunity to draw this. So I'm going to go ahead and sketch. But I want to make this sketch be, I need this sketch to be offset from this face here. So I'm going to create another plane. Reference geometry, plane. I'm going to have this offset about ½ an inch. 0.5. And I want it to be in this direction. And I'm just going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the shape of this so that I can loft between the two. So sketch, sketch on this plane. I already had that plane selected. Go ahead and get normal to that plane. And then here, I'm just going to draw a rectangle. Okay, first things first, I'm going to set the center point of this rectangle, add a relationship to the origin, and they are going to be vertical. Hit yes, and then I want to add a relation. Oh, I've already got those 2 points selected, so I will delete those 2 points. I want the center point of this and the center point there to be horizontal. So it'll just force it to be equal across that origin. Go ahead and hit escape a few times. And now I just need to give dimensions to this. So we'll have this be 1.5 inches. Sure, why not? And we'll have this width be, why not 1 inch? That makes the most sense. It's the kind of profile we have for other shape. It's fully defined, so we'll go ahead and exit sketch. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to do a lofted boss base. So I'm going to loft between sketch 3 and between this face. It's not going to let me, is it? Oh, that sucks. I suppose it's going to make me draw a circle. So I'll do that. I'll draw a circle for you. I got my square right there. Oh, nope. Still my sketch selected. Sketch. Just put it on this face. I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle for you, SolidWorks. Exit sketch. And now I should be able to do my lofted boss base. I got sketch 4 selected, that's that circle. Got sketch 3 selected, that. And so just go ahead and accept them. It creates this very interesting connection profile that goes between the two. Now when I bring back in these pieces, you'll notice that it actually kind of meshes interestingly well. Now there's a little bit of an intersection here, so I might need to actually go into this. Now I'll move my plane back. Edit feature. I'm just gonna set this in at 0.25. Change that, hit yes, SolidWorks will adjust. And now my feature looks a little weird, but it's very similar to what you would see out of like a weld. Assume that that would probably be ground smooth. But that is now my connection between this bar and this tube. Okay, and now when I go to mirror this, I'm going to go back and edit my mirror because I want to also mirror not just the circle, but I also want to mirror this connection part. So I will do that. And now when I do it, you'll notice there's a nice connection on both sides. Okay, it's not super pretty. I just don't want to spend the time to do it right. I'm trying to go fast, like Sonic the Hedgehog here. So now I have a solid connection piece. I'll go ahead and save this. Again, I want it to be in my rear assembly folder. So I will type this as strut, because that's what it's going to be. It's a strut that goes between one side and another. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a bracket. And this bracket is going to be mounted on the backside tube of that bike, and it's gonna be what holds this piece. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to start with sketch. We'll draw this on the top plane. Zooms into the top immediately, and I go and want my bracket piece to, let's see, I'm going to draw, I want my origin to be about the center here, so I'll draw a circle. And then I got a line. Goes from here over. Got a line that goes from here over. Okay, and then that's basically going to be the outline of my bracket. It's just going to be a piece that cups onto the back there, and holds my axle onto my bike frame. I'll probably have some kind of a through bolt that goes this way, but yeah, that's what I want. Now let me go pop open my bike frame and just try to remember what I'm doing for my center piece, because I don't remember how thick it is. I remember that I used some kind of a weird profile when I made this, but oh wait, no, I just created a 1/8 inch 1.5 inch outer diameter tube. Okay, that's not too complex. So I got a 1.5 inch inner diameter here. Alright, let's do some trim. I'm gonna have like a square bracket, and the idea is I'm probably gonna bend this square piece in this shape. I'll show you what it looks like. I got it in my head, which probably doesn't help you a whole lot, but you'll see. But I want that inner diameter to be 1.5 inches. And I'm going to use a bracket width of, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 of an inch. So it'll be 1/8 inch on the inside of this. So 1/8 inch plus 1/8 inch means it's going to be a 1/4 inch smaller than 1.5. So I need this dimension here to be 1.75 inches. Sorry. This is going to be 0.875 because I need it to be a full diameter should be equal to 1.5 plus that 0.25 wall thickness. 0.125 wall thickness. I don't even care anymore. I'm doing it this size. There'll be a little bit of a play here, but I'll tighten it down with a clamp. Okay. And then I want this to extend out 2 inches. Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll create a constraint, add a relation between that point and this point. You'll notice there's 2 points that show up here. I'll hit vertical, hit yes. And there we go. This sketch is now fully defined. Exit sketch. After I break it. And I'll go ahead and jump right back into making a new sketch. Oh, I don't want to have to deselect this sketch first. Hit sketch. I want to sketch on the right plane. But I want it to be a plane that's right here. I really should have moved that. So let me create a reference geometry, plane, that point, second reference, right plane, make it parallel. This says it's fully defined. So I've now created a plane that goes through that point and is parallel to the right plane, which is what I want. Now I can sketch on this plane. So go ahead and hit sketch. I've already got that plane selected. Go ahead and, oop, not that one. No. Make it normal to the surface. And then we're going to draw a rectangular profile. So, simple rectangle. Escape. And then what I want is I want to add a relation. SolidWorks freaks out. Between this point and this point. Oh, but it's not allowing me to. However, I should be able to create, because this point is supposed to be on that plane. Yeah, I can select that point. I will. Problem is it sees that point because I'm looking at it from this direction, so I have to get a different view. It will allow me to select this point because I'm in this plane, and then I'll select the midpoint up here, and these will be vertical. And then I'll go ahead and add relation. I've already got that point selected. I'll delete this point, go over here, select the midpoint over here, and make these horizontal. So again, just forcing that rectangle to be right in the middle there. And then I'll give some dimensions to it. Here, because this is going to have to handle a 1-inch bolt, I'm actually going to want this to be about 1.5 inches tall. And then I want this thickness here to be 0.25 tall. Exit sketch. Go in here, do a swept boss base again. We're sweeping boss base, our second sketch, around our first sketch, hit yes, and that's what our bracket is going to look like. So, pretty. But we're not quite done yet here. We have to cut a hole in this for the actual axle to fit in. So, I'm going to go ahead and draw another sketch. Here, because this is a flat plane, I actually can just draw by clicking straight on here. If I click on that face and hit sketch, or if I sketch and click on that face, it'll let me draw on that face, and I can zoom normal to it, and I can draw right here. I'm going to draw a circle. It's interesting. It gives me a midpoint. Right here. And I will make this be a diameter of 1. Well, notice it's fully defined because for some reason I had some midpoint there. You may need to dimension off of this edge. You should be able to at least choose the midpoint over here. You should be able to. If not the way that I drew it, I could make this horizontal with the origin because I had everything centered around the origin. So I'll go ahead and exit sketch. And what I want to do is I now want to do an extruded cut. And the idea is I want to cut through abso-friggin-lutely everything. So I hit through all and it just cuts through abso-friggin-lutely everything. Hit OK, and now you'll notice I have a hole that will nicely fit that piece. Okay, now I don't know if this bracket is actually going to fit on my bike. I don't really care. Never mind. It looks nice. I'm happy with it. Okay, so I've created a bracket. I've created that axle. I've got the 2 struts, well, because I'm going to copy 1 strut over. I need 2 more parts. One of my parts is going to be a flat plate that goes between It goes between my struts to hold the struts together, and one of those plates is going to, and then I'm going to have to create a spring that connects to the bottom of my bike. So a little bit to do there. But, all right, so go ahead and save this. And this will be, I'm going to go ahead and go back into my rear assembly. I'll name this as the mounting bracket and enter. You know what? I am going to go back and make those collars just because it's good. So file, new. Now what a collar is it's like a giant spacer. Holds things on, clamps onto a circular rod, and it prevents these things from sliding off. So I'm just going to create a very, very quick collar, because why not? I'm going to do it on front plane. Oh, SolidWorks, you didn't do it for me? You're going to do things myself? Rude. All a collar is just a hollow circle. So, no. A smart dimension. Oops. Apparently I do one of my circles off the origin. Probably should rectify that. So I'll add a relation, center that circle, origin, merge. Yes. I would never advise using the fix relation because it doesn't help you at all, and it actually causes your drawings usually to break. Just FYI. Okay, now I should be able to... There it is. Well, the 0.5, and then this inner diameter will be 1. Exit sketch, features, boss base extrusion. I'll just do a blind extrude this time, and I'll make it be 0.5 inches. Okay, a nice looking collar. It looks like a washer. It's really thick. I will save this as axle collars. Good to go. Alright, so I've got my axle collars. Now I need a plate. So I will do file new, part, This one again is not all that complex. I'm just creating a plate that goes between my struts. So do a quick sketch. This time I'll do it on the top plane. And create a corner rectangle. Really gotten into this kick of wanting to get my rectangles centered here. So heck yeah, I'm going to keep going there. No, I don't want to select line 1. I'll select midpoint. You just hover over it long enough and just eventually SolidWorks will figure out that you want to select the point. Add another relation. I've already got the origin selected. Pick this point. Make them horizontal. And yes, we're good. Give this dimension. This will be 4 inches. And this, you know what? For funsies, let's also, well, let's make it 2 inches. Doesn't have to be super huge. Exit sketch. Extruded boss base. I'm going to do a mid-plane extrusion. And I'm only going to make this 0.25 inches thick. So there we go. And that's all I'm doing for my plate. I'm going to weld that piece on. So I'll go ahead and save this. And I will call this the spring plate. Okay. Now, I don't actually know how to make a spring in SolidWorks. There are ways of doing it. I've seen people do it. And that's cool. I mean, from what I've heard, it's actually not that hard. You just go into a curve, create a helix and a spiral. I am going to attempt for the very first time, and this is terrifying for me, to draw a spring in front of you. So, we'll start with a helix and a spiral. I want it on the top plane. I don't even know how to draw this. What happens when I exit? Oh, nice. It gives me a, that's the circle that gets traced out. So let's see. What is the pitch? Let's see, I want the pitch to be 0.75. Kind of a thicker one. Number of revolutions. I'm going to have this go up probably 6 revolutions. 6 revolutions at a pitch of 0.75 inches is 0.75 is 3/4. So that'd be 4.5 inches. 3/4 of 6. Switch what direction you want it to go. Well, there we go. I've created now a spiral shape based off of my sketch. I should probably go back in and define what I want this diameter of the circle to be. I'll make it be a 3-inch diameter. No, we're gonna make a 3-inch diameter. Yeah, I like 3. This is fully defined. It's a sketch. Looking back at now this helix that has been made. What I can do is sketch, and you want to sketch a small circle, and you want it to be on this plane right here. So I'm gonna look at the front plane, go down here, see if I can select this point. Oh, I can. And I'm gonna draw a tiny point. I'm gonna have to add a relation. Doesn't like that. Oh, let me select that point. Come on, you just showed me that point. Select other. Nope, it doesn't want me to select the point. Well, dang. See, that was 3 inches. All I have to do is just say, hey, that's be 1.5 inches. Click out a smart dimension. Oh, wait. For my wire diameter for this, I actually want my wire to be about 0.125. It's pretty thin. I don't want to have a very thick wire. You'll notice it's still not fully constrained. It's because I need to add a relation between this point and the origin to force them to be horizontal. And now they're fully constrained. I'll exit sketch. And then it's just a swap boss base for sketch 2, which is my circle, around this helix. So, that wasn't terrible. Boy, that is a tiny looking spring. Oh well. I'm actually going to change this. Instead of having the circle be 3 inches, I'm going to have it be 2 inches. And what you'll notice is that it actually does cause my sketch to break, because my helix is not in the same place as my sketch anymore. I have to go back over here, edit this, because I was never able to constrain it to the endpoint of this. Oh, I can select that point all of a sudden. Let me do it again. Oh yeah. Add relation. Oh, come on. I have the point selected. They're already horizontal. I don't want to fix it. No, won't let me do it. Dang. It's hopeful. If I can select, like, nope. I keep getting excited. It's too bad. Just make this one. Makes it harder, but it's whatever. Exit sketch, and now my spring is a little bit smaller. Okay, now what I am going to do, just to make this a little bit nicer, is I'm going to create a box, and I'm going to cut my spring to what's called ground edges. So I'll create a sketch. I'll sketch on front plane, draw a box. It's a really weak box. I'll try that again. Draw a box. Yeah, there we go. Okay, first things first, I'm going to make this point the center point of this be at the origin. I will make them coincident. Okay, fixes them together. It'll cut off the bottom part of this spring, which is fine. That's what I'm trying to do. And then what I want up here is I want to have it cut off the top of this spring up here. So smart dimension this line. I'll make it 3, just why not. And then for here, I think I wanted this to be like 4 inches. Nope, 4 would cut it right in the middle there. I'll go ahead and change this to 4.5. Okay, and all that'll do is it'll just cut off the very tips of it and leave flat surfaces that I could weld on. Usually when you mount springs, you grind down the ends. So, alright, so I got my sketch. I'm going to features, and I'm going to do an extruded cut. And what I'm going to do is I thought this had a oops. Gotta go back and edit my sketch. Oops. I'm gonna offset this whole thing. I'm gonna have it go out about 2 inches. Sure, why not? Hit enter. Now I will do an extruded cut. And I'm going to cut this. I'm cutting out a box, and I'm just going to basically cut it through both, which will cut everything that way. And now, if we go in and look at our edge here, we do have a flat edge to our spring. It's going to make it a little bit easier to assemble that in SolidWorks, and we also have a flat edge down here, which will also make it easier to assemble in SolidWorks. So go ahead and save this as spring seat. And there we go. Okay, last step. I'm going to create an assembly. So going in and make an assembly, and we're going to call this is just going to be the rear assembly. So starting with all of the parts, I still have all of my parts open. Every single friggin' one of them. But I'm going to start with my, except for I don't have my axle apparently. I need my axle. I'm going to have this just all be based on my axle. Okay, so there's my axle. Now what I'll do is I'm going to insert some components. I'm going to insert a couple of axle collars here and here. And when you're working with an assembly, in order to position parts relative to each other in an assembly, you have to use something called mates. So here, what a mate does is it's much like a relation when making a part. It forces components to have similar features. But here you can do it with like faces. So here, I want this outer face of this and this face right here, I want them to be coincident, which means that they're in the same plane. So I hit that. Now if I grab this and drag this, everywhere I move it, it's always going to be somewhere close to this. Now I want it to be about right there. In order for me to do that, I need to select the center line of this thing and the center line of this thing. I'm going to have to go in to View, Hide and Show, and I'm going to turn on Temporary Axes. Okay. What that does is it creates the center line for both of these. Actually, all three of these shows up. So I'm going to click that center line, click this center line. They're going to be coincident. I'll hit yes. Now what you'll notice is if I click this and drag it at all, I can spin it, which doesn't bother me at all, but I can't pull it off. So that piece is spinning on its axle, but I can't pull it off. If I wanted to fix it so that it didn't spin, I could add a plane to this thing and then fix this plane, and I'd have to add a plane to this thing and fix those two planes together. I don't really want to do that. I'm fine with it rotating. But I'm going to stick this component on here, make those two coincident, hit yes, and then scroll over this side, pick this face, zoom in, and pick the face of that and make those two coincident. So now I have two collars. Okay, nice. Now I'm going to bring in my other components. So let's start by adding the struts. Got one strut, got two strut. Okay. Now I'm going to put the strut on this side of the collar, whole reason why I made the collar was just to make this assembly a little easier. I'm going to mate the outside face of this to the inside face of this collar. Make them coincident. You notice that doesn't line them up, but it does put them in the same plane. Then I will select this axle here, and I will select this axle here, and make them coincident, so that now they intersect. And now that's what my component looks like. It's kind of cool looking. I'm going to do that over here with this one too. I want the outer face of this strut to mesh with the inner face of this collar. Okay, so if I zoom up, you'll see that these are now in line. Those two will touch each other when they're done. And I will grab the axis of that and the axis of this, and I will select yes for that. So now, there we go. Now I've got the beginning of my strut. Looking good so far. I'm going to do the same thing over here with my other axle. I'll actually just end up creating another one of those assemblies on this side because I'm cheap and I like doing things easy. So I'll need to add another axle, which means I'll have to go back in here. So that's the one part I clicked out of. Put that over here. And then I will also put in a couple of collars. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to go ahead and mate. Select this face. I want to go mount to that face. Hit yes. This and this axis, I want them to be coincident. Turn around to this side, this face, and this face. Both says faces over here. If you have an error, usually it's because you're mating two things that are wrong. Here I've got my two faces selected. This one is face 4 of axle 2, face 3 of axle collars. I do want those to be coincident, so I go ahead and hit yes. And then lastly, I make sure connect axle axes together, and we're good. Now the last thing I need to do, I only have to put in 2 mates here because these are already forced to be parallel, but it's whatever. I'm going to go ahead and mount the inside face of the collar to the outside face here. Hit yes. I'll mount this rotational axis to this one, and I'll hit yes. And mount that rotation axis to this one, and I will hit yes. Okay, and now one of the fun things that you can do is you can actually grab onto this component and rotate it. It's like jumping rope. The whole axle's moving, the whole collars, everything is moving nicely, and because it's moving nicely because it's constrained well. I can't grab onto any single component and drag it way off. The only thing I can do is rotate, which is good by me. So it's good check. Most of you will have problems with doing assemblies because assemblies kind of suck. Usually you mate the wrong parts together. Usually you click on the wrong axis or axle, or you don't constrain the axis of 2 circles to be in line with each other. Sometimes you'll take like an edge like this and you'll constrain that to another edge. That does work sometimes. Sometimes that causes problems. So I just do it this way because for me it's the easiest. We're not quite done. I have a plate and a spring I need to add to this, and a bracket. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the bracket right now. Insert components. I need my mounting bracket. Take my mounting bracket, put it right there. Nice. And my mounting bracket, I'll go ahead and mount. I made it. It's got little tiny temporary axes in here. So So I'll click this, it says axis. When I do so, click that, hit yes. That's awesome. Now you'll notice that this part can move in and out. I mean, it can slide anywhere. I haven't defined it to have some kind of a contact surface with these, so it can just slide all over. More than likely what would happen here is this bracket would have some kind of bushings on the inside that would lock it in place. So you would slide those bushings in there. I'm going to cheat a little. So I told you that the nice thing about creating these parts in SolidWorks is that they can go back and be adjusted. Here, this right here, this distance here, if I go back to my original sketch 1, that distance itself it's a radius of 0.875 inches, but this distance here is not as large as I would probably want. I'm going to go ahead and modify this sketch again because I don't want it to just be what, 1.75 inches across here. I don't want that. I actually want it to be 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these two lines. And everything is going to freak out the moment I do it. Nope, actually I'm not going to delete those two lines. Control Z. Instead of doing that, I'm going to flare this out a little bit. I wonder if I can cut. I can. Draw a line. Just going to draw it here. And then I'm just going to trim. Everything was dependent on that point. So, yeah, that's a problem. I can't delete that point, but I need these two to be connected somehow. But now that I have broken this, I can now grab this well, I don't want this. Don't want that. I'm going to take off this tangent. The tangent is really what's fixing things here. Ah! Whoa! Control C. Yeah, this 2 inches is also screwing things up. Nice. I will go ahead and draw a line that goes straight down. And yeah. Go ahead and mesh these 2 points together. So I'll add relation. Combine those 2 points. Merge them. Zippity doo dah. Nice. I just keep losing it. We'll see. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw another line. Have it go up like this. Now I want this to be symmetric. So there's a way that you can do that in SolidWorks. It's a specific constraint. Hold on, I'm just going to merge these 2 points. Oh, we got to do me dirty like that. Control Z. Don't do that to me, SolidWorks. There we go. Now we'll merge those points. Sometimes SolidWorks doesn't always know exactly what you want it to do, so you have to undo and redo. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to add a relation on this line, and I'm going to force this line and this line to be equal. And all that does is it says the length of this line is equal to the length of this line. So if I grab this and I stretch it downward, whatever happens, those lines will always be at the same length. Okay. Okay, now one last piece. I'm going to dimension the distance. Well, I guess two last pieces. I'll dimension the distance from here to here, which I want that to be 4 inches. And this distance here, which I want to be 2 inches. I'm going to have to change this from 4 inches because I did a mid-plane extrude, and because it's 1/4 of an inch wide, I actually need this to be 3.75, else it'll be too big. Now, if I exit sketch, it will attempt to rebuild this whole thing the way that I want it. And it did. It did it exactly the way I wanted. I may need to make this a little bit longer at some point, just because I don't want this to contact my bike axle. But as of right now, I don't care enough. You'd probably actually want to have some kind of a clasp in here that, like, you mount in, you screw it in, that actually connects to your bike, so you can have this rigidly connected to your bike. But again, I don't care enough. This will do everything I want it to do, at least for now. So, cool. Looking good. I will file save this, and I'm going to go back into my assembly. And you'll notice the assembly experiences an error immediately. And it says, whoa, things have changed. Do you want me to update files? We'll then go in and update. You'll notice I've got this bracket intersecting my strut. I'm just going to add a quick mate. Oh, I don't want to mount this face. Oh, I guess I do want to mount that face. Huh. How did you know, SolidWorks? I'll mount it to this face here. They'll be coincident, set them equal. And now, when I zoom out, now there's no issues with that. Now this part here, it is allowed to rotate relative to the piece. It probably won't show up very well right now, but it can. All right, last feature I need to do. I need to put in that plate, and I need to put in that spring. So, spring plate. Oh my goodness, that is way too small. So I'll have to go back into my spring plate. I have open, and I'm just going to adjust the drawing. This needs to be 6 inches, not 4 inches. Or something. Or something. We'll try 5 inches. Exit sketch. Go ahead and save it. Go back into my assembly. I'll freak out. I'll hit yes. I'll make that plate. Oh. I was looking at it in the wrong direction. I need to rotate this. Brilliance. Brilliance, Kale. Okay, so the nice thing... lost it. Lost my drawing. No, show me top view. So what I really want to do is I want it to connect here on this bar. Okay, because that'll serve as a kind of a mounting piece between the two. The problem is there's no real good place to mount that to that bar at all, really. So what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and create a plane on that strut. So I'll go back into my strut. And I'm going to create a plane that goes right through the center of this. So, and the whole reason why I create planes is because planes do make things a lot easier to mate to connect to, everything. Now really all I want to do for my plane is I just want the top plane. And I want it to be coincident to the top plane. It's fully defined. Done. Basically just creating a top plane there. So if I go back in here, I want to create a mid plane. So I want this plane to mesh with reference geometry plane. I'm going to select, again, I think it's a top plane actually. Yeah, top plane. Want it to be coincident. Hit yes. I want those two planes to be meshed together. So I'll go back into my assembly. It'll give me an error message. Tell me, do you want to rebuild? I will do so. But I can't see my planes here. If I go into view, hide show, I'm done with the temporary axes at this point, so I can shut that one off. But I do want to see, not my sketch planes, but I want to see my planes. Okay? And now it'll show me all of my planes where every one of them are. And I'm going to go ahead and take this plane, add a mate to this plane. And what that'll do is it forces this to always be in plane with the strut. Okay. Next thing I need to do is I need to rotate this. So what I will do is I will add a mate this plane, and this plane here that defines the center of the strut, I'm going to go ahead and mate those two together, but rather than make them coincident, I'm just going to make them parallel. And all that is going to do is it's going to force it to be rotated like that. Now you can see my plate is way too long. I should probably go back to the 4 inches that I had, which is still probably too long, but again, I don't care enough. You wanted to do it well, you would actually figure out what that dimension is, add a weld there. I'm not trying to do things well, I'm just trying to do stuff, okay? So, yep, go back to my spring plate. Go into my sketch. Should have made that 5 inches. Should have made it 4. Enter. Make it smaller. Look at the sketch. Again, this is going to be a little bit too big here, but it is what it is. So, yay! Now, oh, this wants me to save it. I should save. You should save constantly. It's asking me, do I want to save all of the other pieces? And quite frankly, yes, I do want to save all of them. I want this to be in the rear assembly, and I'm going to call it rear assembly. Okay? We can actually build an assembly out of assemblies, which is really nice. Okay, let me see. I want this to be in the center. I don't know if I can pick the center of this line here. Go to select midpoint, which is right there. Nice. I'm going to quickly go and, I know I said we were done with temporary axes, but we're not. Oh, I guess we are. Dang. I need a plane defining the center here. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into open my axle, because why not have yet another SolidWorks drawing open? And I'm going to go ahead and create a plane in the center line of this, because why not? So here, make this here. Did I do a midpoint? Did I do a midpoint? I did. I did. I select front plane instead. And then I want this to be coincident with the front plane. We're good. I'll file save this. Go back into my rear assembly. Rebuild. And now you'll see I've got a plane that goes down the center of this. I'm going to go ahead and constrain. Click on this. Right click on this. Hit select midpoint. I will mate that midpoint. Oh, it's selected the entire edge. I want the midpoint. I want the edge. Just want the midpoint. Yeah, there it is. I want that to be coincident with this plane. Okay, and what that'll do is that it forces this plate to be in the center here. Okay, and lastly, I have to define a location for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this piece here, I'm going to pick this center axis here, and instead of making them coincident, I'm going to give them a distance. Okay, and the distance is I'm going to want it to be about 4 inches away. Okay, and I can adjust all of these mates later, but now I have a really well-defined rear assembly that I could go in and plug into my actual design. I haven't put on the spring yet. I'm not going to put on the spring today. We'll do that another day. But this is my rear assembly now. If I grab this piece, it rotates with my actual strut. Whole piece moves. I can rotate this piece here around that axle, which is what I want. Actually, you know what? Give this better. Give it better motion. I'm going to go ahead and pick this axle. You see how it says F right here? It means this is the fixed component. I'm going to go ahead and right click on it and turn it into a floating component. Go down here and change this to a fixed component. So all I did right there was I just adjusted where my rotation point is. And the whole reason for me doing that is that now I can grab this component and spin it a little nicer without spinning everything else as much. But I can still grab here, which this over here is where the bike tire is going to be connected. And I can grab this and I can bounce it up and down. Yeah. Sweet moves. Alright. I'm going to save this. Rebuild and save, because I want all of my parts to be saved. And that is all for today. I built an assembly and it only took me like an hour. So I will see all of you in class this week. Keep making progress on your designs. I am getting a lot closer to being done with my design. I still have a lot of pieces left to make. I'll probably post another SolidWorks video later this week. So be it. Alright, I will see all of you in class this week.